Let's get this meeting started. Looks like it's 1:30. Can I get everybody on the Zoom call to turn their camera on so we can see a beautiful face? It's kind of a request and a requirement for our forum, is that correct?
If you're a board member, yes.
If you're a board member, yes. Make sure everybody's on there. And now we got a lot of people in the room, and we got some people on the screen, and as difficult as this may be, Robin, I'm gonna ask you to do a roll call, and we'll get everybody to agree that we're actually here or virtually here.
Okay. We'll start. John Daugherty.
I am here.
Dolly Holland.
She's waving.
She's on. Matt Montgomery.
Here.
Micah Drake.
I'm here.
All right.
Margaret Downs.
I see your name on the screen, not sure if she's.
Debbie Link.
Here.
Aaron Tipton.
Here.
Pam Hatcher.
Here.
Connie Schnell.
Here.
Ryan Henson.
Here.
Christian Wellman.
Here.
Victor Ponder.
Here.
Allie Heydrich.
Here.
There she is.
Sarah Dodesy. Sorry
Here.
if I pronounced that okay. Deb Giordano.
I'm here.
Awesome.
Desiree Perry.
Here.
Amy Glasscock.
Here.
Michael Bushman.
Here.
Stacy May.
Here.
Rolando Thacker.
Here.
Jeremy Hurd.
Here.
Jennifer Hayes.
Here.
Todd Blanton.
Here.
Mike Riley.
Here.
Kevin Moore.
Here.
Colin Mosley.
Here.
Darlene Thomas.
Present.
Did I miss anyone? Oh, Michelle Deans.
Michelle.
Here.
And Tanya Saunders. She may not be completely on yet.
Can you hear me? Tanya's here. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
And we got some guests around the room too, right?
Yeah, I included everyone.
Oh, you did?
Got it.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank everyone for being here for our meeting today. We want to thank some departing members that we've got some that's leaving us. We got Jeff Cottle, but he's being replaced by Christian Wellman, who's in our room today. So we lost one person, we gained another, and we didn't lose a position, right? Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you guys.
And we got Margaret Downs, who's actually leaving us as well, but I'm hearing that she's trying to find a replacement to fill her position with the board, and I appreciate her for doing that. But then we got a new person that's on our Leo board, which is Judge Executive Hamilton. I think is he with us?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he's with us. All right, great. Can we, we'll start with our gentleman in the room here. Can you get a little introduction about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Christian Wellman. I don't know if I should look at the aisle or you guys or whichever route, but I've been in this position as a business rep going 5 years in April. I started about a year before Jeff Cottle, worked in the office together. Yeah, I've been in that role before that. I was a superintendent foreman in the job sites, more in the construction field. Now we're more in the recruitment aspect of trying to get more for membership, build ties all around. But I don't know exactly should I say in the introduction, but I'm definitely I appreciate being welcomed in here, and thank you guys.
I think you're at the right place. You're trying to get membership and more people coming your way.
Oh, definitely.
And if I can get our new judge executive to kind of introduce and talk to us a moment. Out there.
Afternoon, everyone. My name's Steve Hamilton, Nicholas County Judge Executive. Excited and appreciate the opportunity to participate on the board and hopefully learn and help our region and our community here locally.
Well, appreciate you being there, and especially hanging out with us today.
Okay. Y'all may think otherwise when you get done with me, so.
Hey, you might bring some spirit into the room for us. Well, we're gonna change up our agenda a little bit today because we do have some kind of pressing information that everybody wants to get the information and so we can march on. And we're gonna jump down to our informational items to start with that. And we're gonna start with our status of the WIO of funds budget analysis, which is enclosed in a packet. And we're gonna have some speakers on that and try to get some clarity, so don't get excited.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Michael Bushman, I'm the current CFO here at Bluegrass Ad. Unfortunately, I've had the job here to kind of lead into this situation right now. So if I could summarize, and please, Matt, Amy, anyone, if you want to jump in, to summarize best I can the current situation we have right now. Starting in FY '21, our budget was not correctly rolled over into FY '22. The folks who did that they didn't account for the carryover correctly. So basically, what we gave was an overstated budget to our direct service provider. That happened again for fiscal year FY '23. Basically, we had one way of tracking grants for a long time in the ad, and for whatever reason, that wasn't done for the past year and a half or so. When I returned in April of '22, basically we kind of had to rebuild a lot. So basically, the best way I can describe it is for many years we had outstanding, great people, but not so great internal controls. So this situation has kind of highlighted the lack of oversight and internal controls that we had. We did kind of get an inkling. Unfortunately, our workforce accountant at the time left. So I took over, and so then I got my first dive into the state reporting system. So that's when I kind of started seeing some irregularities between our accounting and then what the state had. I met with Amy and I told her I think that the spending was farther ahead than what we had on our books. So she made the tough call to immediately stop new enrollments. And quite honestly, that decision in November saved our current program because as of January of 2023, we only had about $560,000 left to run both the ad and our direct services with Equus. Because of that situation, we unfortunately had to cut costs, and the only true way to cut costs other than no new enrollments and pulling people out of services was to cut staff. So I believe right now we have 2 staff internally, board staff, that we let go. And then Equus, unfortunately, I think was 20. And I obviously get the specifics, but I want to kind of summarize and kind of let you know. Obviously, you know, when I started, really in November, we kind of had a revamp of internal controls and ad-wide, so just company-wide. And then obviously with this situation, we've met with the state, because it truly was kind of a perfect storm. The state's budget that they had in their reporting was incorrect as well. They didn't have their funds correctly reported. The total budgets were incorrect. And the fact that we didn't have our internal tracking system, which is a spreadsheet which was included in this financial packet, we didn't have a true way to make sure we had all our funds accounted for. That's the put it as simply as possible. But we've met with the state. They're very cooperative. I think they are also under the realization that they didn't quite do their job in terms of reporting and reviewing. So we've met with the state. They have new procedures in terms of reporting. I think they like our ideas of making sure everything ties together. We have new internal controls at the ad to kind of make sure everything is caught, make sure everything is accurate and ties. And then, you know, moving forward, I'm really hoping that it doesn't matter who's sitting in what seat, we can avoid anything like this happening in the future. Are there any specific questions or anything I need to get into in detail?
Robin, is there a question on the chat?
Jeff Cottle's not gonna be joining us, so.
No, I would just say, so we met as a finance committee a week ago, I guess. Years flying by. But I mean, the questions that we went through were, you know, you hear things like, we're unexpectedly out of money, you know, it was more like, was any money spent that should not have been, or any
Right.
money that we'd have to give back to the federal government because it was inappropriately spent? And
Right.
the answer was no.
No.
Right? It really was a carry over accounting problem, not a, we did not spend the money correctly. We,
Correct.
and also, there was a lot of enrollments and activity at the beginning of the year too, which probably accelerated when the problem was highlighted. So that was the big exercise I think we went through as a finance committee, and that was, Michelle and Don, Dolly, myself, I'm gonna leave other people
Michael,
out.
I believe Michael.
Yeah, Michael were on that call. And we spent, you know, I don't know, an hour and a half kind of digging through that kind of detail, so. Yeah, I mean, so from a finance committee perspective, I think it was just, let's make sure that we've got the right visibility. And as you said, it's one of those, when it rains, it pours, where if you had not caught it, but the state had their controls, they would have caught it, and we would have noticed this a lot sooner,
Right.
or vice versa. But there were multiple layers where that wasn't there that you guys are looking into to try to make that a little better. There's also some updates here, I think, too, in terms of tracking to kind of help us understand what the visibly, or with a graph.
Right.
Hard, English hard. To go through and try to be able to see these things as they go a little bit better too, so we can see the allocation and see, you know, how things are progressing.
Right.
Matt, what kind of measures or controls do we have in place now to prevent something like this from coming again?
I think my understanding is that as we look at the way that these things have been tracked, that the procedure of how this was done is much better documented. And there's a much, it's a clearer process than to say that it's not based on a single expert. So as we went through a little bit of transition, or the ad went through some transition of the people that were responsible for it, they knew what to do, but, you know, as new people came in, you know, that became, I mean, it was a copy of a copy, right, of that knowledge being transferred and then transfers, my understanding. So they put that in place, and then in working with the state, now there's a system-to-system kind of check to say, does my number match your number? Which is you know, gives us a little bit more confidence as to what that.
Is that a quarterly match that you can see?
Monthly. It's now monthly, yes.
Okay.
Michael, do you want to share anything else that you've done as far as internal controls?
I mean, really, I've, you know, again, this isn't specific just to workforce. You know, again, we just had someone who had 15 years of knowledge, who kind of ran everything and just knew how to do everything. And I think the old thought process of internal controls was just only this person can do that. That's not internal controls. That's just, you know, hoarding knowledge of one person. So when that person leaves, no one else knows how to do it. So that's been it's a big transition period, is that we've really put, you know, I had to go through and make an SOP master document with everyone on the accounting floor, their job and responsibility. Met with program directors on what they should be expecting, reporting wise, financially, from each month from their finance staff. We now have a shared checklist again with all finance staff as well as program directors. They can make sure everything's being done in a timely manner. There's due dates. There's a primary, there's a secondary person in case that person is gone for whatever reason, vacation, sick, whatever. We really try to do everything we can to make sure, you know, we try to figure out what could go wrong and, you know, make sure we have it covered. We want to have multiple checks, not just, again, one expert or one spreadsheet that ties. I want to have multiple reporting functions, and as Matt alluded to, and we kind of dove in the finance committee meeting, the state didn't have a way to make sure and check, honestly, either, what we reported. What came about that meeting is I suggested that we provide an income statement each month, that they make sure, hey, you know, what we report in our system matches our income statement, because that's our, you know, accounting. It should tie, and I think they're gonna make that a statewide, or, you know, for all the ads now, which I think is great. I mean, you know, you need to prove what your finances are, and I think now with some of these checks, we have multiple ways to reconcile and make sure we're all tying. And again, this is every program, it wasn't just workforce, that we kind of had to revamp how we do things.
I'm gonna bring
This is-
presentation.
Erin Tipton, I have a question, unless there was one in the room. I can't tell. I'm gonna go ahead and ask it. So I was curious at how many staff were impacted, and is there a plan to bring folks back July 1?
Yes, I don't know. If you want
Yeah, 20 career center staff, Equus staff were laid off. We had only actually given them 24 hours notice, and Equus stepped up and, actually gave them 30 days. So March 23rd will be their last day. We will keep, 4, Equus staff in place to help us get through, June 30th. And then, we will keep a few, board staff to help us, get through. We have 2 staff, Tiffany and Hannah, which I think most of you all know, they have been laid off. As much as I wish they could come back July 1st, it may not be possible. We get a small allotment of funds July 1st, and then the bigger allotment comes in October. So we can't hire those individuals back till we actually have those funds available to be able to pay them. And we have no carryover this year, where typically we have carryover to carry us into that first part of the year.
Got it. Thank you.
And I want to say that Equus, I was in the meeting with them, and it was gracious for them to keep the 30 days extra for the staff. I appreciate them. That couldn't have been a better thing to do. So we give them a shout out for that.
Amy, do we have to write another grant and resubmit for the funding to bring these people back?
We don't. We automatically get the grant each year.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we'll receive an NFA. Typically, I mean, it's supposed to come July 1st, but typically it's the end of July, beginning of August when we actually get that NFA. And then the next one's supposed to come in October, but it's to the end of October, beginning of November before we actually get that one.
And the amount won't change so that we get the same amount for the quantity of
It may
employees to
change a
bring
little
back.
bit. I mean, like last year was what, 400,000 less than previous years? So, it just depends on what funding the state gets from the federal government, and it's all based on a formula that the federal government uses, and then the state has a formula they use to determine how much each local area gets. And as a whole, all the southeastern states are getting less and less money each year.
So how will we decide what group you're gonna bring back or whom you're gonna bring back? Or how will that work?
Yeah, it'll be
And
based
various
on,
levels.
it'll be based on need. Where we're at on enrollments. I mean, this has all happened so fast in the last couple of weeks, but we are working on devising the plan on who will come back. I know a lot of this staff, I know Equus is working on helping with like maybe some remote positions and things like that. A lot of staff are going on and finding other positions, so I don't expect, that everybody will come back, just because, the situation. We'll have to evaluate what the need is. We did apply, and this just happened, the state notified us that there are some funds across the state for youth that were recaptured, $425,000. And so, I obviously applied for those funds for us, for the youth, so it would, keep the youth staff. I'm sure other areas are applying for it as well, so I can't say that we would get that full amount, but I would hope so based on our situation that we would be eligible for that. And if that's the case, then our youth staff wouldn't have to be involved.
Any other questions from the group out there in the Zoom land? Or in the audience here? So, in closing, I guess, for this, looks like we're okay as because of the changes that have happened through our fiscal year end, and then we'll start to regroup and build back up shortly thereafter. By fall, we'll look different than we do now, right?
And I want to share my appreciation to Connie and Ron as well, and their agencies over the last couple of weeks. And Todd, you can jump in on this too, and Jennifer. They have really stepped up as far as trying to help us as much as possible in all of our career centers and their availability of staff. And so I just want to say thank you to them for all the support that you've given us over these last couple of weeks and going forward.
Well, we're there, I'm in Danville pretty frequently, I'm in Georgetown pretty frequently, we have staff going to the new office on Fortune Drive, not there full-time, but they're helping out with the RESEA orientations, kind of doing our part. And whatever we can do, we will do, to kind of have the wheels in motion to try to help fill in Georgetown and already in Danville. So, yeah, it's been great communicating with you all. We were able to get on a call pretty quickly and talk, or I was able to get actually in touch with Todd last week and just kind of start thinking through, like, what can we do as an agency? Because there are things we can't do and there are things we can. Whatever we can do, we'll do. So, and I think that's how you feel as well.
Yeah, the bridge that, you know, with our career development office, with our staff that do a lot of unemployment, but also employment, Widener Pizer. And we actually we're about 2 months from moving into Fortune Drive from our temporary location. So, yeah, so that's gonna be good. Yeah, I think we see the light at the end of the tunnel for that. But we're also working on, dispersing staff in our career centers across the state, or across the region, to have presence there where we're not right now, and especially during this time. So we're in the process of planning for that to Richmond. You know, we're in Georgetown to put people over at Fortune, even though we're not there every single day, and we're not there yet. We're going to do whatever we can to keep providing the services for employment services for these individuals, these job seekers, you know, that are seeking, and get them through, you know, filing for their unemployment, but on the employment side, helping them find a job. And so we work hand in hand with, you know, the Equus group, and we will continue to do that. And we're going to do it even in a greater amount. Thank you.
Thank you.
As far as Equus, do you have any questions?
We appreciate you guys.
This is Deb on the screen. I want to reiterate, Amy, I know you know this, we've had these discussions, but you know, one of the reasons that Equus obviously continued to financially support keeping the staff on for 30 days was because, you know, these are real folks with families, and it was the right thing to do, as well as pay out their PTO. We're trying to place them in other positions in Equus where we can, for temporary positions until this program can rebuild. But we're also your partner in looking for other funding opportunities to fill the gap.
Oh, she froze. Maybe it'll kick back up. Just pause with it for a moment.
Yeah, and then and I think I mentioned, we're in the process of hiring 4 additional people to work on the employment services side, you know, that'll work closely, you know, that we work closely with Equus, you know, for making referrals. But I just put in paperwork to have one start 3/16, and then I'll be posting. And then there are some people that might not be able to wait that long, that have the qualifications to apply, you know, for some of the jobs that we have as well. So we're making sure that we're communicating when those are going to be posted, which they will be pretty soon. That's going to help our situation as well, you know, all around, because those people we're not just doing that for a temporary time. They will be with us for quite some time. So good timing for that too.
Yeah. Deb, you froze on us for a moment, and then you went away.
I know. Sorry about that. I lost my connection. I'll just sum it up. Whatever we can do to help this board recover, get through this period, support any funding applications. We've been working with Amy and team brainstorming other funding that may be out there, grant funding, to help continue services. We're very concerned, obviously, about our team, but also the huge numbers of people that rely on this region to support them. So we're your partner. We stand ready to help you get through this period and see brighter days ahead soon, hopefully.
We hope so. Thank you so much. Anyone got questions, comments to add to our biggest ticket item today? Probably the most important thing to talk about today, right? Okay. Michael, we good?
think so.
Amy? Matt? Good to go? All right, well, let's go on. Since we're in this informational items, we'll go on down. We've got our location of our joint meeting training, that was selected. Is that Robin speaking on that?
It's gonna be in Richmond at the workforce. What's the long name of that? The workforce thing, with the
EKU?
EKU.
Scholar
yeah.
House.
Scholar House, the Scholar House Workforce. We're excited to use their space. They have a nice space and it's free of charge, which saves some money, which is good, especially now. But we're excited to keep moving forward on that and making our plans for this year.
On that, do we have training to talk about?
Yeah, we will under the action.
On the action, I got you, okay. We're going out of order, so I'm a little bit out of order myself. So, we got an update on our, NDWG COVID grant.
That was the COVID grant we received back in 2020. That expires March the 31st. We have exhausted almost all those funds. As a state as a whole, I think 98% of the funds were exhausted. So I think we made good use of those funds, and we provided lots of PPE equipment to our employers and our schools. And then we also provided internships to help our employers as well, and then some training opportunities. So I think we made good use of those funds.
Okay. Next one is our, chemical agent destruction pilot plant layoffs.
Yeah, so as you all know, in Madison County, the Bluegrass CAP is going to start the process in September of laying off folks that work for the plant. There's about 1,800 total. Of course, all of those individuals will not be, just being laid off. Some of them will go to other federal positions. There's a lot of them that are choosing to retire and those things, but we are applying the NEG grant to help those folks with training opportunities. We're in the process of completing that application right now. And then as soon as we get that submitted, we'll let you all know.
And that's the Richmond location?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't know 1,800 people in there. That's a lot.
Yeah, there are. Mm-hmm.
Direct service provider report. Jennifer.
Good afternoon, everybody. In your packet, you'll find the January report for your review, and I'll hit some of the high points on it. For the month of January, we ended up having 277 enrollments. We had 53 active participants in work experience, internship, paid opportunities on our payroll. We exited 26 participants off of our caseloads to employment. 5 of the youth participants that were in WEX internship sites were hired on at their actual employers that we had them placed at. Under the outreach section, you'll find that we're still on the ground each month in each county. And we are in adult ed offices, libraries, high schools, colleges, and over 30 transitional partners. That's our recovery centers and reentry partnerships helping individuals find employment. And then also you'll see on the January report that we had VR headsets out in Mercer County this month. And then the February report actually will show a huge increase in VR headsets. That's one thing that we're really promoting out in the community to the schools right now, is that career exploration through virtual reality headsets. And then at the end of the report, you'll see 3 success stories. I know that the last meeting you all had, I think Matt had expressed interest in learning and hearing more about success stories. So this month we included 3. The first success story was just an example of how we provided basic career services and helped someone get connected with employment that was coming out of drug court. We spent no money on that person. We just connected them to employment. The second one was an example of where we spent training dollars and helped someone get their LPN paid for. And then the last example was where we connected a participant into a paid internship opportunity. So we added in some extra success stories. And that's in sum what the report says. And then I just want to follow up and say that this past week has been one of the roughest weeks that I've ever worked since 2012, being hired on with Bluegrass. And but I will say that the amount of support that we've been given has been incredible, and it starts at the top, obviously. And so Deb, our VP, was on the phone with me within minutes of me hearing the news. Amy and I talk multiple times every single day. Amy is one of the best directors that you can ever find. So she not only does a great job, but she cares about the team. And then Mark Douglas, our president from Equus, was on the phone with me within just a little bit and was able to offer staff 30 days of continued employment. And so I just think that speaks volumes of the company that we work for, and then also the partnership that we have with Bluegrass. And so, and all of the board members, all of you all are super supportive, but John and Dolly was on the call with us the next morning, and they were supportive and, as always, supportive. And so I just want to thank you all for the support. And I want you to know that although it's been a terrible week, staff have really taken a positive approach to this, and they're fighters. And so they're doing okay. But I want to thank you all for the support.
Thank you. Anybody got questions for Jennifer? And I will add to the VR. I got Jeremy over here. We've had some great experiences with partnerships coming out with VR on some of my school visits. So I see the kids loving that, and I think that's a new wave. I love it. So the more that can get out, I think the better it will be. Absolutely. All right, then we got our one-stop shop. Wait, anybody got questions for Jennifer? I took up the time.
Thank you for including the success stories. So I think that's great. Helps tie everything together.
No problem. And we're going to have we plan to have some in-person success stories and maybe some videos to kind of give us a different approach to letting you all hear some of those.
Love it. Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you for all that you're doing and taking care of all that you're dealing with right now. Appreciate it.
Jennifer, have you all started notifying enrollees, or have we gotten that far yet?
Yes. Within 24 hours, Dolly, everybody was notified. And then Todd compiled a scripted email so that all of the partners were notified, the training providers, employers. So everybody was notified quickly. And I can't give enough credit to the team. I mean, even in the hard news, they still cared about doing what was right for their participants and the community.
Thank you all so much. We truly appreciate that.
Anyone else for Jennifer? Okay, Todd, you're up, buddy. We're going to talk about the
Thanks, John. Thanks, John. Obviously, want to echo everything that Jennifer said. It's a tough time for us right now, but want to also give a huge shout out to Jennifer. She's had some very hard days that she's dealt with going on with everything. And she lost her grandmother right during the middle of this, and then had to go through dealing with this. So super strong woman there. So just really proud of her and proud to be a part of her team. So want to make sure to give her a shout out too. I'll get to the report. This is for January of this year. I had 703 in-person phone calls, 142 new referrals came into the program, and then 101 customers received just core and basic services. So those are customers coming into the center just for job searches, resumes, a workshop. So, I'm sure the board's aware, but these last couple months, our numbers have just continued to increase with people's interest in the program. So on top of that, we've also started keeping track of just customers that are receiving core and basic services. So this will be something that would be included on the future reports. A couple things that I was involved in January. We've been trying to get into the Lexington Public Library. They've got about 6 branches here in Lexington. And so we're trying to further that access point progress and incorporate that into the Lexington Library locations. So I met with Lori Davis, their workforce development manager, and she's going to be getting back with me to start kind of a pilot at one of the Lexington locations so we can get that KCC kiosk out and one of the TVs to kind of run informational items about the KCC at the Lexington branches. January, I was still currently covering for our business service manager, Hannah. She was out on maternity leave, so I was involved a couple of business service team meetings there, and then attended the Blue Oval partnership meeting with Amy and some of her team and some of the board from Lincoln Trail to talk about how we can assist with Blue Oval and the recruitment that they're trying to do for their new plant that's coming up. So just a few high points there. Obviously, you know, want to kind of address Connie and Ryan. They've been so great to work with in this past week. We've already started some plans, and kind of my role is going to be doing anything and everything that I can to fill in gaps and traveling to different offices, different places, assisting Rolando with kind of the business service things that are still scheduled, and just moving forward, being kind of a floater and helping out, doing anything we really need to. But you know, Connie and Ryan stepped up. We're going to get a plan together to keep some coverage and the office doors open. So great partnership with them, and you know, it's going to be a rough few months, but we'll get through. And then in July, we'll get back up and running, and you know, start fresh and new, and with a renewed vision for the Bluegrass.
Anybody got questions for Todd? Now, I like it, Todd, that you're jumping around and just filling in wherever you can and wherever you're needed.
John, I've been around so long now, I just do whatever and they can't get rid of me.
Anybody got questions for Todd, even out in the all audiences, virtual or real? Thank you, Todd. Now we got an update on our VR events, and the flyer is enclosed.
Yeah, on the back of your packet, there's the flyer that we created for the VRs. If you have any businesses or schools or anybody else in your community that would like to use them, you know, we'll send you an actual colored one or email or whatever you need if you'd like to share it. There's also the report that the company provides us. It's Transfer VR, and they provide it on the usage. And so you can look at that just to see kind of where it's not in color. It's kind of hard to tell but who's using what programs and how much they're getting used. There's been a ton of interest in the virtual reality headsets, especially with our youth program. It's been really exciting to watch the youth try out programs. You know, they think they may have interest, or they think they may not have any interest at all in a program, and they try it on the VR, and it's like, oh, this is kind of neat. So, so we've been in Frankfurt. I guess after tomorrow will be 3 days this week in Frankfurt at the high schools there. And each week we have 2 or 3 events minimum scheduled up through actually June, isn't it? So it's a huge hit, and it's exciting to see the teachers too, and how much the students are relating to these VR sets. So we're glad that we made this purchase. It's one thing that we do have to offer all of our participants and individuals coming into our career centers right now.
And it's fun to watch adults play with it.
Yeah.
Jeremy, I was making fun of my guy.
Yeah, that's true. We also, I got an email today from the Fayette Juvenile Detention Center, and they're wanting us to come out and demo them there for their students, their education system. They're actually looking at buying their own devices, but they want to try ours out and use them some first. So.
Good.
And the judge executive from Franklin County came to our event yesterday, and he tried the headset out and was really excited about the program.
Did you make fun of him too?
And we got a picture.
We got some pictures.
Great. I love that idea. I loved it since we looked into it here, over a year ago. Tried them out. Okay. Now we've got our middle section of our agenda, which is our action items. We've got some approval of the minutes that were for our November meeting. I assume that everybody had a chance to review those and look through them. So for the official action items, we're looking for approval of the November 15th meeting minutes. Well,
I'll make a motion to approve.
thank you, Dolly.
I second.
Second over here, Connie, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye, or wave your hand on the screen.
Aye.
Thank you. That moves forward. Now our financial report, which we already talked, kind of. Yeah, okay, January. So our January financial report, let me look at that. And,
This is for me.
yes, no, she gave it to me. She was supposed to. All right.
So, I'm Colin Mosley, I'm the workforce accountant here at the ad. So our January report, we found a little thing that needed to be tweaked. So everyone that's here should have the updated copy. It just threw off one of the percentages on the adult expenditures. It was an issue in a cell that just got missed. So we've adjusted this report to show, as compared to prior months, to show the amount of the budget expended. We've added the bar graph on there. And then we've adjusted our forecast to kind of show what the actual funds we have remaining to finish out the year entail. So our original budget was around 4.9 million, and we're running on less than that. And so those forecasts, the gray on the February, March, and April, May, and June on that graph is going to show the more accurate projection. And so as of at the end of January, we were overall at 70% expended as compared to 61% in the prior year. Our admin was set around 65% as compared to 62% in the prior year. Our adult expenses were at 91% as compared to 73% the prior year. And our dislocated worker was at 31% as compared to 74% the prior year. And then youth was around 73% expended as compared to 66 in the prior year. And then we have a requirement to spend at least 20% of youth program funds on work experience. And as of January, we were at 94% on that requirement. So we're almost to the end of that requirement as compared to 93% the prior year.
Colin, on the dislocated worker program, we have 59% written, but you stated 31, is that correct?
Yes, so.
That was the adjustment?
Yes, that was a correction that there was an issue in a cell that it doesn't change the actual numbers, but it spit out the wrong percentage on our, and so we caught that and adjusted it.
So this is our new adjusted based on our funds and.
Yes, sir.
Are we, just looking at the graphs here, I'm seeing our blue go higher than our gray in our projections.
Yes, the blue is our fiscal year 22, and that one went up to around 4.9 million.
Okay.
Yes.
There you go.
And so this year we had budgeted a similar amount, but as we found out, our funding was a little bit different.
Okay, so gray is our forecasted projections for, and that's going to align with our realized real funds now.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody got questions about that, or you have more to add?
Nope, I'm just waiting. Anyone have any questions?
I have a question, and this may be being relatively still new to this board. When I was looking at the last several pages, I just noticed the fiscal year 22 reserved funds, like in each category. Is there, and this again is just more of a knowledge question for me, is there a threshold of what needs to be kept in reserves? That's recommended or mandated?
So typically, the way that the grant funds work, the 3-year grants federally that are passed out to the ads for 2 years. So, you know, you can look at it as, you get a new allocation each fiscal year. So really you want to carry about, you know, I'd say 40% of a single year. So depending on that, that could be, you know, a couple $100,000 for the whole budget, or sorry, 500,000 maybe for a whole budget. It just depends year to year, but there's not an exact threshold per se, but you know, we kind of use half of last year carryover with half of the new fiscal year, if that makes sense. They kind of just, you know, because it crosses over 2 years. I'm not sure if I confused everyone.
Some of them I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
So carryover can go into reserve.
Correct.
Doesn't have to go from where it was carried over from necessarily.
Yes.
From the prior. Okay.
Reserve is essentially carryover. Yeah, those are carryover funds. Yes.
Thank you.
So with projections, on that question, are we looking to have some carryover from this year to our next fiscal, zero out?
Yeah, I mean, there might be like a few $1,000s, but not much that would carry over, and so it will take us a couple years to
get that.
to get back, back where we were.
If there's no more questions, we'll look for a motion to approve January, and then we'll go a couple months later and approve the next. Look for a motion to approve.
Micah.
Thank you, Micah. And look for a second. There's a second. And any discussion? If not, all wave or say aye. Thank you. Now on to our next action item, which are our proposed training options. And I was jumping ahead on that earlier. What we got there? I think I seen 3 different ones. Is that what we had?
Yeah, it's in your packet. There's Speak for MC. If you've ever attended a SETA conference, Curtis, and I never say his name right, he's the first one. And then Dwight Bang is the second one. And then, other ones in here.
Life Works Group, what?
And then the other one is for EKU. They did our strategic plan, and we could submit a statewide reserve grant application because the statewide reserve grant is who paid for our previous strategic plan and paid EKU, and we could apply for kind of a renewal, reevaluation of our program, especially with everything that's kind of just happened. And then John actually sent some good information that would go along with that as well, regarding some information from DOL as part of that training. So those would be the 3 options. If I remember right, Stacy, on the statewide reserve grant, we were gonna apply for $6,000, a little over $6,000 for the statewide reserve grant to pay for the strategic planning.
That is correct, yes.
In this session, it's next fiscal year.
Right, it will not be until September, yes, it will not be under this current funds, it will be our new funds. You know, I would hope that, you know, we would be in a position that we could pay for, the joint training as I find it valuable each year for our board. But, you know, there's the 2 options, and of course, we're gonna apply for the statewide reserve grant funds, which would be additional funds than what we already have.
As a board member, and well, I've been on a few other boards, but I'm on 2 right now. I think that joint training is extremely valuable as well. I don't know that any board across the state has a joint meeting with their LEOs and then does a relevant training. We've talked about this before, so I agree.
But we are doing that.
Oh, are you?
Corey has picked up the best practice. Yeah, it just
Well, we
happened.
suggested it,
Yeah,
so Brett,
so
you listened.
we're gonna do it, and it's sort of like a retreat, we're calling it, and, we're doing it this year, I think it's June.
Great.
I know, we're excited, I meant to tell you that, because that just came from here.
Good, I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, it's.
Breaking news.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep.
So, and this is the training that Robin was talking about earlier that we're gonna do at the Scholar House in Richmond, which is, a free, site. And then, of course, we would provide lunch and, as well, which, you know, Robin's good at finding a penny pension, so, she is seeking out the most least expensive, lunches that still taste
Loaf of
good.
bread and some bologna.
Hey, sometimes that's not bad.
Yeah. So we got 3 different options, is that what we're looking at to try
Yes,
to
and the
depict?
Yeah, the statewide reserve grant one is not in here,
Right, it's not in here, and that would be the totally free one.
except for the cost of the training, which would be under the statewide reserve grant.
Right.
Okay.
Do you have a recommendation?
Now, the one you're talking about is actually linked with EKU, right?
The statewide reserve grant, yeah, I mean, they'll be right there on site. I mean, it's the EKU, the folks that do the strategic plannings in the building next to
That's what
where the training would be. So, yeah, I didn't think about that
That's
actually,
what I
but
was
yeah.
thinking, since we're gonna be on their site,
Mhm.
and they're gonna be next door,
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the cost will be, but logistically, that will be
Mhm.
perfect for them.
Yeah. So, and with everything that's changed, obviously with, you know, the funding and everything, I think redoing, or, you know, kind of taking a renewal approach to the statewide reserve grant would be beneficial for our board. Even though strategic planning, I know, isn't super exciting, like Curtis that does the conferences, he's super exciting and motivating, maybe that's
He's
somebody
a
we can look to for the
guy.
future.
Yes. I like, he's the motivational,
He sure is.
speaker. I'm not sure about this, hidden power
Oh,
of
no, I've not
gratitude.
heard of him before.
But I've been in a couple with Dwight Bain, and he's really good. He's really motivational too.
Okay. So we're looking at costs. I see 5,500 on the Speak 4MC. Do we have a cost on the hidden power of gratitude and a cost on the?
Yeah, it was.
It's 6,000 something for the hidden power. I saw that somewhere.
Okay.
6,500.
And the third one we had was this bluegrass proposal.
For the strategic.
Oh, yeah, okay. And do we have a?
But that one, if we get it approved, everything will be covered through the strategic, through the fund.
I think for our budget, we need to stay at the, suggest we stay at the lowest possible, and then that's the one that's recommended, BGWIB, right?
Correct.
I mean, it's a board decision, so if anybody's got some suggestions or opinions, let's hear what opinions you guys might have, and whatever the majority looks at, that's what we'll go with. Don't just listen to me.
I would agree, it seems the most relevant for having everybody together.
Okay.
Open the floor for anybody who wants to speak on or suggest.
Were either of these two individuals, Amy and Sarah, in Louisville?
Curtis.
That's what I thought, okay, all right.
So do I understand it correctly that out of these 3 choices, I'm gonna call them, we are choosing one to be together as a board and the extension really of everybody, right?
Yes,
To
the
either
governing
do
board.
strategic planning, which that is one option, or either of these 2 trainings,
That's
right? Okay, okay. I've only been engaged for a small amount of time, of
Well, your
course,
voice-
but.
Your voice is equal to everyone else.
I mean, knowing what I know at this point, I think the time well spent and timing of and the importance of strategic planning altogether, I think that would be my vote if we're voting or however we're doing it, so.
I agree, I mean, what was the turnover this year of new Leos?
And we had 9 Leos.
Yeah, so I just feel like
yeah,
that
right.
ties them together.
I think,
Even more
yeah,
justification,
I think
I think,
that
but.
would be great for Leo's, and if we can get the thing I just sent Amy and Robin yesterday, and Dolly, that's DOL, so I assume it'd be a free, just zoom in.
Yeah, it would be, and it goes hand in hand with this strategic planning
That was about
discussion.
25 minutes or so,
Yeah.
that's all it was.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
Was the Leo's terms just up or they wanted to step down?
A little bit of everything. Some of them stepped down, some of them lost, some of them, it's just different for each of them.
Okay, so far we got, kind of a group over here saying that we like the EKU outreach that's on site. Does anybody else have a different thought, please?
I agree with what Pam said about the strategic planning. The comment that she made about, kind of where we are. If we're having to choose, that would be my vote, if you will, as well.
Okay, thank you. Well, on
This
this,
is David Sturgill. I think I also agree with the strategic planning component. So I would vote yes as well.
thank you. Well, the people are, do we have Rhonda? Yep, just made a noise. Well, it sounds like at least a.
Yes, I'm here.
There we go.
I like the strategic component as well.
Thank you. All right, well,
Can you hear me?
yes, there you are. Can you hear us? I think that, we can hear you.
I'd vote yes for that.
Okay, so on this, we're looking for an action and proposed training options for a joint meeting. And I think at least the ones who voiced, we're talking about, what's the name of it?
Strategic planning.
Strategic planning. Just go over that. Okay, looking for a motion to approve the strategic planning as our training option.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Matt. And a second?
I'll second that.
All right, we got 2 seconds, 3 seconds. That's a third. All in favor of the strategic plan as our training option? Aye. Thank you. That one was decided. Okay. Do it. Okay, look like change date of election and that it brings us Stacy. Is she there?
Hello, everyone.
There you are.
Yeah, so just to kind of bring everybody up to speed on that, the elections for the remaining members of the executive committee, which is everyone except Matt's position as treasurer, they were tabled in November because of the bylaws had been drafted and you guys had approved it, but it was pending approval with the Leos. I'm happy to say the last meeting with the Leos, they did approve it. But with this change, it means the executive committee members are now eligible for reappointment, which kind of changes how the process had previously happened. And in order to make the flow a little bit easier, Amy and I kind of talked about it and had 2 suggested changes for the process for the elections for this year. The first being that the elections shift obviously from November, since that's already passed, to the last meeting prior to July 1st of an election year, which would be June. Our next meeting will be in June. This would allow any new executive committee members to come on board during the beginning of the fiscal year. And the second is confirming the executive committee current members who are interested in remaining and announce nominations are open. So that's what we would be doing right now. As of the end of 2022, I had reached out to the executive committee members, and all were interested in remaining in their positions if this change is approved. So just if this is changed, just let me know at the end of the meeting and we can focus on finding nominations for those positions. But if I don't hear from any of the executive committee members, I'll presume that you guys are still interested in remaining in your current positions. But what this means is that all positions are currently filled, and there would be, if there are no nominations, there isn't a need for an election, essentially. So what would happen is during the meeting in June, you guys would simply vote to reappoint. Now, if there are people who wish to run for those positions, or if somebody wishes to nominate another person for the position, we would hold elections as usual. We're not going to knock anybody out from wanting to sit in an executive committee position if they wanted to. So, but in any of those cases where somebody is nominated, I'll actually reach out to the person and confirm that they are interested in the position if they're nominated by someone else. So essentially that's the suggested change, is that the elections be held in June instead of November, or the reappointments in this case.
Well, how will someone get, if someone wanted to nominate, how would that happen? What would be the?
They would just need to reach out to me and let me know that, you know, I'm interested in seeing this person in this position. I think they'd be really good in this position, or they can reach out and say, I'm interested in sitting in this position. And if it's someone else nominating someone, I'll reach out to that person and make sure they're interested in the position. And obviously if they're letting me know they're interested, then I know that they're interested. So, and then in June, we would hold elections as usual.
So anybody wanting to nominate someone, they let you know.
Just send me an email, making it really simple.
And anybody wanting to put their name in the you know, the hat to be that, they just contact you as well. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
I'll be totally fair with everybody in this, you know, on the board here. Nominate yourself or nominate someone else. Let Stacy know, and let's, you know, be just like a normal, you know, whatever election thing. If you guys
And this, yeah, and the same holds true for you guys sitting in the executive committee positions, because, you know, I know that's a lot of meetings on you guys. So if anybody, you know, is getting burnt out, or if their work is picking up and they're not able to continue in those positions, to just let me know and we'll look for nominations. So I think part of the original meeting between the board, and Matt can step in here at any point because he was in that meeting, between the BGWIB representatives and the co-CLEOs, was essentially burnout and making sure that the executive committee members don't feel kind of overwhelmed or drug out by that position over the course, because it is additional meetings. So yeah, that was one of the issues that was discussed.
Yeah, we had talked about where I think that originally they were like, okay, let's do it for 4 years plus another 2 years, and we were just looking at that as being that's a pretty scary commitment to make, right?
That's a prison sentence, isn't it?
And then it was 3 years with another 3 years for the chair, and that was signing up for 6 years, and that was a little bit scary. So we had just talked about trying to make it much more palatable.
I like the 2-year time frame.
But we're about to talk about the whole policy changes too, which I don't know what drove that.
Well, the policy has to be changed based on what the bylaws say.
Yeah, but one of the things it says is that you're not eligible to run again. And I think when we look at other boards, they have the same chair for longer amounts of time, as long as that person is reappointed. Because it takes us, so I mean, I'm sure everybody's experiencing it. I still don't know some of the vocabulary words, and I'm 6 years in, right? So, I mean, it helps for some continuity, but I was just surprised to see that. Did the Leos ask for that to change? Because at one point they wanted us to
make it rotating.
Make it rotating.
Yes, they did.
Okay.
Okay, got an acronym, thing I shared with, maybe I need to share that with you.
Yeah.
And I know Stacy made an acronym, booklet years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe time to update that.
Yeah, so if I understand it, we're saying in June, we're having we'll either reappoint or if people want to be notified, we'll have an election. Otherwise, the current 4 positions will carry forward.
Yes, it would simply be a motion, an action item on the agenda to reappoint the current members. If there are no nominations. If there are nominations, instead of it just being an action item, it would be an election with you guys approving the results.
For all 4 positions. I think I was just elected in November.
So it would be the 3 positions since you were elected in November. Yours is not up.
Find them all again. That's fine too. I mean, like just okay. And that re-election or that renomination would be for 2 years. Is that okay?
Yes, 2 years.
All right.
So every 2 years we revisit the executive committee members and see if they would like to stay on the board or if there are nominations for people that would like to step up in those positions. So it's a kind of relatively, considering how often we meet, a relatively frequent visit to those positions to make sure everything is still running okay.
And I just want to reinstate to everybody that feel free to nominate whoever you like.
Is that a plea for help?
No. It's one of those things, you know, in the government sector, I'm always the guy that says I can't say no, so I will be here unless I'm replaced. Okay.
I would just suggest, let's put my position 2 in that same slate so that it's not messy and we'll just keep them all in the same cycle.
Can we do that, Stacy? Is that doable?
You guys can do whatever you want. So if are you saying this June, Matt, or the next one?
Well, if everybody else is if we're going through this in June for everybody, I mean, I don't see why the treasurer needs to stand as a separate cycle. That would just be confusing.
Well, it's not technically a separate cycle. You would just have a couple of additional months. Since you only technically started a couple of months ago in the position of treasurer, you would technically pick up in the next election as opposed to this one. So,
Yeah,
but if you want to have it in this one, that's perfectly okay. But it's.
Let's do that. Let's make it all the same. Otherwise, it'll be confusing in the future.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you know, the whole executive board will be confirmed in June, right?
Correct.
Again.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm good with that. Anybody else got some questions, comments about that?
So we need a motion to approve either the reaffirmation or the election pending nominations for June. So I'll make that motion.
Does that coincide, Stacy?
Yes, it's technically just to change the election dates till June and address the process. So yes, I think Matt captured that.
Okay. So Matt's made the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. And then our change of policy, Stacy, I think we danced around it, but go ahead and address it.
Okay, well, let me just pull that one up here. And essentially, yeah, we've kind of already addressed it. The primary thing is the reflection of the bylaws, and it simply allows the officers available for consecutive reappointments following the process that we just discussed. And the change of the election dates, if that's approved.
And then that's highlighted in your
Yes.
packet.
Yeah, I mean, having been in there with the Leos, in the past, the secretary could always carry on and rotate. The treasurer could always carry on and rotate, but we had a policy where the chair was always, came from who was vice chair, and the vice chair was elected, during that time. And then the chair was no longer eligible to be chair or vice chair, but could take another role. And the vice chair became chair, but then was no longer eligible, but could take the secretary or treasurer role.
Right.
So that this changes now to say that we can keep their positions. The chair stays the chair, doesn't have to be the vice chair first.
Yes, essentially, as long as the consensus of the board is in agreement for those positions, the people to remain in those positions, then it would continue. And it seems to be a simplified method that seems to meet or address some of the concerns that were brought up in the ad hoc group about burnout and making sure that there's occasional switches, that there's staggering of elections, things like that. So those would eventually, as time goes on, those would eventually be addressed through this change in the process, just through natural carrying on of people changing terms and getting tired of their seats and things like that.
And I've made statements in the past in different meetings that my other board I serve on, every 2 years, they just ask the chair if he's still willing, and everybody says, we vote for him. And he stays there. So it's more in line with what I'm used to with my other board that I'm on, so. On that, any more discussion? Then the policy needs a motion to approve as highlighted and struck through old and now highlighted new. Anybody willing to make a motion for that?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Micah. And a second?
I'll second.
Hey, we got 2 seconds. Our new guy in the room gets a second. Yeah. All right, so we got 2 seconds. So all in favor? Aye. And that is our last action item. So anybody else want to give us some good reports about anything that you wish?
John, I have something that Amy asked me to show, if you guys have a couple extra minutes. We have a success story on video.
Absolutely, please do.
Okay.
Over a year ago, I found myself in Kentucky. Both of my children had moved here, so I followed them. I wasn't going to stay behind in Florida.
Can you turn the volume?
Yeah, I need to share the screen too. So.
If you guys can't hear, we got Robin queuing up a video success story coming up. Probably until I'm asked if I work on you too much.
When I got here, I was pretty limited as far as jobs go and resources go because in Florida I had been private caregiver. So when I came here, my daughter was telling me about the Kentucky Career Center and that she knew Misty and that it would be an opportunity for me to try to get in.
That's max volume.
Maybe Charlotte can see it.
I already did it first.
So I went from there and I contacted Misty and she got right on it. And we worked together, we developed a plan, and she said, I think I have found the perfect position for you at Fort Education Center. And she told me about the position and the job and
Try to get the sound up for everybody watching.
I said, well, that's awesome. That sounds like something I can really sink my teeth into and really get in the door. But she told me that there was a possibility it would not be because we are Thornhill is a nonprofit organization.
I'm not here.
But I came in,
Got some not hearing.
answering phones. I didn't really have per se a title. I was just answering phones, helping out the front office in any way that I could.
Robin, did you share the sound too?
My working position with Kentucky Career Center was working as an internship. It was 480.
I think go to more.
As I was working here, I
Share
noticed
sound.
people coming and jumping in. Everybody was getting their GED. And I happened to think, well, I'm pretty sure I have my GED, but I don't remember having an actual physical copy of my GED. So we have an online form that you can take. So I typed in the information and it popped up that I actually did not have my GED. So I've been lying to people for years that, I didn't have my diploma. So I let them know right away that I did not have my GED, and Trina Wallace and Kelly Anderson were like, well, we'll fix that right away. So we did, and within less than a month, I actually had my GED. From there, I just kind of fit in, as they tell me around here. I got along great with all the women and the one male that works here. We just kind of became friends. Anything they asked me to do, I was eager and willing to do. I mean, I can't just sit here all day and do nothing, and they liked the job that I did and offered me the position, and of course I jumped on it with both feet, and here I am. My position here at Thornhill as administrative assistant, sounds classy, huh? I'm also a certified Pearson tester here at Thornhill. I'm very grateful for the Kentucky Career Center and for Misty. When people ask me how I feel about my life right now, I always tell them that I went through a series of phenomenal women to get where I am right now, starting with Misty Seitz and ending with Kelly Anderson, Tasha Chandler, and Trina Wallace. If it hadn't have been for those 4 women and their eagerness to keep pushing me and make me go, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. So I extremely, extremely recommend Kentucky Career Center as the way to go.
That was a great success story. I know some people couldn't hear it, but it was great.
Yeah, send out the link if you would.
Yeah, the link to that.
And we'll start doing that every meeting. I know that you had mentioned, Matt, that you wanted more success stories, so, we're gonna try to, bring some of the folks in as well as do more of the videos and that sort of thing going forward.
Welcome back to the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity.
Oh, no, now we're not. Yeah.
Stacy's, recording of the WIOA orientation.
All right, with that, anybody got anything else?
And I would, if you don't mind, I just encourage everybody to, with your organization or with your private accounts, please follow us on social media, because it does help get the word out about our services. And even though we're in a tight situation right now, there's still people out there who need our help, and it'll get the information out to them. The key word on our social media for any of them is KCC Bluegrass. We're primarily on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn and Instagram. It's essentially the same information on any of those, so whichever you prefer, and YouTube for KCC Bluegrass. So please follow us. Please share when stuff pops up on your timelines and any of those social medias to help us get the word out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stacey.
I just wanted to say one thing, and I didn't get an opportunity before, but I just want to say that I appreciate the transparency with the budget. So, that was reported earlier. I know, things happen, right? So I just appreciate the detail and the rationale of, why we're in this particular place and that type of thing. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's great to hear. We was concerned about how people would take that, so thank you. Any other discussions? If not, we'll look for a motion to adjourn.
A motion.
There's a motion over here. We got a second?
A second.
All in favor? I will see you guys later. Thank you for being here.